There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being unloved, but it comes from being loved incorrectly. Loved in a way that no longer fits the shape of who you are and who you are becoming. This video is about that quiet heartbreak. About that moment when you realize that someone's care, however well intended, no longer reaches you. About the ache of being known by an old version of yourself. A version that's not quite true anymore. And the courage it takes to keep growing anyways. And what character better represents all of this than Sciel from Clair Obscur Expedition 33? A woman who once nearly disappeared under the weight of her own grief, but who through such adversity became the emotional center of everyone else's story. It might seem like a strange fit, but stick with me, I've got something for you here, especially if you've someone who's been mischaracterized or misrepresented in your own life. You meet Sciel as you're making your way through the early game. Seemingly out of nowhere, through a series of fights early on, you find her, just randomly hanging out with a bunch of Nevrons. Paintbrush people. I never knew what they were called. I kept forgetting their name. It happens. She carries herself with a posture that is, on the outside, very humorous, very jovial, but quickly you can tell she is someone who has fallen apart and put herself back together out of necessity, not pride. Her presence is welcoming and maternal, but rarely condescending. Gentle, but never passive. She gives everyone around her just enough room to breathe without stepping too far away. She is, in every sense of the word, the person you wish who was there for you in the worst moments of your life. What makes Sciel remarkable isn't just her wisdom and her embodiment, but her kindness that's hard-earned. Sciel was once in love, deeply, fully, fiercely, with her husband. And when he died, suddenly, out of nowhere through tragedy, something inside her went with him. She found not just grief, but complete collapse. Her idea of love was beautiful, but singular, exclusive. She had tethered her emotional safety to one person, one role, one idea, one future. And when that future disappeared, not even taken by the gommage, but by a freak accident, Sciel didn't just mourn, she sank. Literally. She walked into the lake and tried to disappear. It's less of an overreaction and more of an over-identification. She had no concept of love that could survive without him. And this is a trap I think we all fall into sometimes. We think of love as a permanent container. One size fits all in all circumstances. But sometimes that container breaks. And if we've never learned to pour ourselves into anything else, we too are going to break. The turning point in Sciel's story doesn't come from insight. It comes from SDA, a whimsical but sincere character in his own right who, instead of offering advice or pity, offers something far more intimate, a second chance. SDA pulls Sciel from the water, and in doing so, gives her a chance to rebuild herself. Not as a wife, not as a lover, not as someone's everything, but as someone who could choose to love again, differently and more expansively. This is where Sciel's arc begins, weirdly. Not with getting over her grief, which clearly she has not, but with redefining what love will mean for her now. And what she chooses next is what makes her one of the most emotionally mature characters I've ever seen in a game. There's a little bit of me reading into this, but I imagine, knowing the birth point of her change, that Sciel doesn't become warm because she's healed, like a blind man who now has his sight back. She becomes warm because she intimately knows what cold truly feels like. She doesn't offer flashy speeches or endless optimism like Yuna from Final Fantasy X. No shade, I love Final Fantasy X. She just sees you, the characters. She notices when you withdraw. She feels what you're going through and puts her arm around you. She lets silence breathe without rushing in to fix it, but to be there with you. She grieves with you and for you, offering a type of understanding that few others could offer. Sciel would make one hell of a therapist. I wish she was mine. But most importantly, she becomes the kind of presence she once needed the most. That's what makes her story so quiet and so devastating, but so beautiful. She outgrew a version of love that couldn't contain all of her. And instead of hardening, she widened. She sees death no longer as an escape, but as a friend that will welcome her home. You don't get that type of insight overnight. That's hard work. So the real thesis of this essay is surprisingly simple and obvious. Sciel outgrew the definition of love that nearly killed her and chose to replace it with one that could hold everyone else. Not a replacement love, a simulacrum of love, not a romantic rebound, but a true change of philosophy, a philosophy of presence, if you will. She becomes someone who offers warmth, not because she has extra to spare, because hell, no, she couldn't possibly. Because she remembers what it's like to need it and not have it. She makes me think of Robin Williams and his story about depression and how he wanted to be the light for everyone else that he could not find for himself. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. You truly were a wonderful human being who was too good for this world. That is a fair and good reason to care. To know why pain sucks and to know the misery of being alone and choose to move forward with others so they don't have to feel it, that is a pure motivation right there. It's not the only thing that should be present, but it is pure. I don't really talk too much about why I got into my line of work. Whether I'm referring to these YouTube videos or working in my personal life as a therapist. But I will tell you this. I got into these lines of work because I too know what it's like to be fitting someone else's definition of love. To be their small, well-maintained, no problem causing, unmoving little pet or idea of what love should be. I know the pain of choosing to keep yourself small because you think it's an equal expression of that love that you are being given. But I'm here to remind you that this isn't love. It's more akin to Stockholm Syndrome. Well-meaning Stockholm Syndrome, but Stockholm Syndrome. So what happens when you outgrow someone's ability to love you? Sometimes you grieve it. Sometimes you fight it. And sometimes, if you're like Sciel, you become the type of love that you once needed. And if you're finding yourself stuck right now, afraid to grow in the direction that you need to grow, let me offer you some permission today to widen just a little bit more. What if you did take up just a little bit more space, a little bit more room this one time? Would that actually make you less lovable? Or would it make you one step closer to freedom? Because here's the secret. Taking up space doesn't make you less lovable. It makes you more seen. It makes you more free. And there's few things more lovable than that. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you can find a little bit of space that you make for yourself by widening just a little bit more. If this story resonates with you, if you ever had to rebuild yourself after losing someone, for whatever reason, hey, I'm going to encourage you to hit like and subscribe. It helps me find more people with stories like this. And I think these are important stories to share and to tell and to be connected together in. Being connected together helps us to grow, helps us to move, helps us to change.